What if some of the most beloved voices in American music left behind secrets so shocking, so quietly explosive, that they could still change how we hear their songs today? From disappearances that defy reason to lost tapes suddenly resurfacing after 60 years, tonight we pull back the curtain on country's most haunting mysteries and the brand new clues that just emerged. If you love classic music legends and jaw-dropping revelations, smash like, drop your wildest theory in the comments, and subscribe, because what we found this year will make you replay these classics with brand new ears. Bobby Gentry didn't just sing a mystery, she became one. In the summer of 1967, Ode to Billie Joe seized the nation by the throat, a moody, swaying confession that knocked the Beatles off the top of the charts, spent 4 straight weeks at #1, sold more than 3 million copies, and won her 3 Grammys, including Best New Artist and Best Female Vocal Performance. Mississippi lawmakers even named the Tallahatchie Bridge after the song, and a Hollywood film tried to solve the riddle of what they threw off that bridge. But that wasn't the whole story. Because at her absolute peak, after 7 albums, a BBC variety show, and Vegas residencies that paid her a jaw-dropping $1 million a year, Gentry simply walked away. No farewell tour, no final statement. Silence. Then, decades later, a monumental archival project pulled together studio albums, demos, outtakes, 70-plus unreleased tracks that proved her authorship, her production chops, her vision were miles ahead of her time. The box set reframed her not as a one-song puzzle, but as a blueprint for independent women in the studio. Still, the biggest mystery remains: why leave when you are rewriting the rules? Some say she planned it, investing in real estate and production companies to fund total freedom. Others whisper of industry pressure, of being pigeonholed as just another pretty face in a machine she'd already outgrown. Gentry doesn't talk. Maybe that's the secret power. She got to decide what we'll never know. But what happened next would shock everyone, because hers isn't the only career that turned into a cliffhanger with no last page. On March 6, 1975, singer-songwriter Jim Sullivan vanished into the New Mexico desert, and no one has solved it. His Volkswagen was found abandoned on a remote ranch, the keys still in the ignition, his wallet and guitar in the car, his motel room never slept in, no footprints, no struggle, just absence. The eerie twist? 6 years earlier, he'd released an album called UFO, filled with images of long desert nights and being carried away into the unknown. Fans started connecting dots the police never could. He'd been a fixture on the Malibu scene, friends with Hollywood regulars, backed by future top-tier session players. He should have broken through. Instead, he became a ghost story that refuses to fade, kept alive by reissues and deep-dive collectors who swear the record predicts his fate. It's tempting to spin theories. Cartel, hitchhiked wrong car, heat stroke, something else unthinkable. But the truth remains as empty as that highway shoulder. Every time his reissued LP turns on a new turntable, the riddle starts again. What did he see out there? What terrified him enough to leave everything behind? Or did he ever mean to? The files are thin, the questions are not. Graham Parsons, cosmic cowboy, evangelist of American music that fused honky-tonk to rock and soul. He died at 26 in room 8 of a desert motel in 1973. But that was only the beginning. A renegade cremation carried out by friends at Cap Rock in Joshua Tree turned tragedy into legend and rewired how a generation thought about country music. Half a century later, the pilgrimage hasn't slowed. Park officials and desert towns brace for the flood of fans on anniversaries, struggling with how to memorialize a story that was once treated like something to hide. You can stand under those hard desert stars where a new chapter of country rock was written in grief and gasoline, and you'll still ask the same question. Was that wild send-off a betrayal of the law, or the greatest example of honoring a friend's last wish ever attempted? Either way, it sealed the myth. But the most important truth is musical. Parsons dragged country into places it had never gone, opening doors the Rolling Stones, Emmylou Harris, and every alt-country act since would walk through. And that legacy just keeps growing as new generations discover him, one starry Joshua Tree night at a time. Hank Williams' last ride is American folklore with a Cadillac hood ornament. In the freezing small hours of New Year's Day 1953, a baby blue car pulled up to a West Virginia hospital. In the back seat, slumped and impossibly still, was a 29-year-old who had already changed music forever. The official cause said heart failure, but the timeline never stopped shifting. Morphine and B12 injections for back pain, whiskey, a college kid at the wheel trying to beat snow and time and fate. Witnesses disagree about when Hank was last definitely alive. Some insist he'd been gone for hours before the hospital. The last scraps of lyrics, allegedly in a paper bag, missing. The precise moment the world lost him, lost too. Walk the route today and the winter air still feels like it's holding its breath. Here's the unsettling part. The questions haven't narrowed with age. They've multiplied. Was it medical care that went wrong? The storm? The miles? A body pushed too hard for too long? The Cadillac is in a museum now, a quiet blue shrine to mysteries that music can't resolve. And yet, put on "I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry," and you'll hear him anyway, right there, as if the road never ended. But that wasn't the whole story, because this year, a voice we thought we knew revealed something we'd never heard. Over 60 years after that doomed Piper Comanche went down in the Tennessee night, brand new Patsy Cline recordings surfaced, broadcasts, lost performances, even songs she never officially released. Curated carefully from radio archives and private collections, the set isn't a ghoulish cash grab. It's a revelation. You can hear the precision of her phrasing in raw live air. The way she could bend a syllable until it broke your heart, then fix it in the next breath. These reels fill in missing chapters, early renditions, holiday tunes, live duets, glimpses of a craft sharpening in real time. They don't rewrite the plane crash that silenced her on March 5, 1963, but they do force a rewrite of the story we tell about her development, her range, her hunger to try more. And it reignites the old maddening questions. Why push on that night, with poor weather, no instrument rating for the pilot, multiple chances to wait for dawn? We still don't know all the why. What we do know is that her voice keeps finding ways to return, stronger for the miles it's traveled in the dark. If a rediscovered track gave you chills this year, tell me which moment knocked you back in your chair. And if you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss the next hidden chapter we dig up. Jim Reeves, gentleman crooner with velvet tone, died the very next year after Patsy, flying a sophisticated Beechcraft into weather that turned the Nashville sky into a blindfold. He was instrument rated, he knew the risks. Radar contact vanished less than 5 miles from home. The search drew celebrities and volunteers by the hundreds, and still it took days to find the crash site in thick woods just south of the city. Decades later, a briefcase from the scene surfaced, papers intact, after 26 years under leaves and secrecy. While fans debated everything from structural failure to pilot disorientation and violent turbulence. 60 years on, Nashville still tells the story like a campfire tale with a lump in its throat, because Reeves wasn't just another star. He was the bridge, from honky-tonks to living rooms, from rural airwaves to international charts. His influence washes through generations of singers who learned restraint from him, how to make heartbreak sound graceful. Anniversaries in recent years have sparked renewed retrospectives, museum spotlights, and fresh reckonings with a simple, impossible question. How can a voice that careful disappear in a storm that fast? Sometimes the answer is as unforgiving as weather and as ordinary, and that makes it harder to accept. The Grand Ole Opry is a dream factory, but every dream factory has shadows, and the Opry's shadow has a name people whisper: the Opry curse. Skeptics call it superstition piled on coincidence. Believers keep a list: Patsy Cline's crash, Hawkshaw Hawkins, Jack Anglin's fatal drive, to Cline's funeral, Jim Reeves in the storm, Texas Ruby's house fire, Hank Williams' final months unraveling. In recent seasons, the Opry has still found itself at the center of controversies that remind us its stage is both sacred and human. Glamour on top of pressure, mistakes, and second chances. Whether you hear superstition or statistics, the pattern is hard to ignore because the place is so central to the story of country music that every tragedy seems to orbit its lights. The lesson isn't curses, it's costs. Fame demands a toll, the road does too, and the Opry's brilliance, night after night, makes the darkness feel closer when it comes. Keith Whitley's story is a razor's edge. A voice so pure it sounded like the radio had a pulse. A run of #1 singles that promised decades of greatness, and then a single morning in 1989 that ended everything. Officially, acute alcohol poisoning. Unofficially, a dozen puzzles. A happy breakfast. Plans for rehab, new songs ready to go. A coffee cup that didn't smell like coffee. Did hope fade in hours? Or did the body cash a check written over years of abuse? When he was finally inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, long overdue, it wasn't just an honor roll moment, it was a cultural correction. His fingerprints are all over the new traditionalist wave that saved a drifting genre, and YouTube comments from fans still sound like letters to a friend they never met. The exhibits, the tribute concerts, the living legacy, and the artists who cite him, they all say the same thing: he deserved more time. The mystery is the speed at which talent can outpace survival. The lesson is the same one we keep trying to learn. Genius and fragility can share a single extraordinary throat. Turn to Nashville's strangest crime story and you'll find a banjo and a brick wall. David Stringbean Aikman, Opry staple and hee-haw star, didn't trust banks. After he and his wife Estelle were murdered in 1973, the city stopped leaving its doors unlocked. The killers were caught, case closed. Until it wasn't. For years, rumors said Stringbean hid cash inside that modest cabin. Then, 20-plus years later, decaying bills were literally pulled from the walls, proof the old stories were true. How much money passed through uncounted? How many hiding places never found? The crime was solved, the mystery wasn't. It lived in between. How fear can settle over a music town like a fog, and how a man's quirk, saving cash in the wall, can become a time capsule of everything that was lost. Buck Owens said the music died for him the night Don Rich crashed his motorcycle. July 1974, a road he knew, a rider with experience, a clear night along the coast. Officially, operator error. Unofficially, 100 what-ifs. A second bike seen and never identified, a car that might have swerved, a machine destroyed before a perfect post-mortem. In the years after, pieces of the story surfaced like artifacts, a brief memory from the last session, an uneasy quote, fans debating whether the Bakersfield sound could have carried the same fire if he'd lived. It probably could have. It certainly would have changed, because nothing about Rich's attack dog Telecaster tone sounded like settling down. Listen to those records now, and you can hear the crackle of an alternate history humming underneath. That's the haunted part. Sometimes art is a map of the future we'll never get. And then, out of the blue, like a baritone telegram from the past, Johnny Cash delivered a new album. Not a stitched-together odds and ends release, but 11 self-penned songs he recorded as demos in 1993, rediscovered and rebuilt with reverence by his son and a circle of old comrades. Songwriter landed this past year, The Man in Black, stripped back and immediate, with original backing vocals from Waylon Jennings preserved like amber. Critics heard the old fire, the humor, the edge, the spiritual wrestling. Cash not as a museum figure, but as a living writer, telling you a story across the table. There's even a love letter to June that feels like it was recorded yesterday, not decades ago. Fans love to read codes into Cash's songs. And yes, the Air Force codebreaker backstory is real. But these tracks don't require conspiracy to feel prophetic. They're a reminder that even when the artist is gone, the tape can still talk. And sometimes it says exactly what we needed to hear. So what really binds these mysteries? Not just tragedy, it's agency. Bobby Gentry deciding to vanish on her terms. Jim Sullivan choosing a long highway with a head full of desert songs. Graham Parsons choosing a farewell so wild, his friends risked arrest to carry it out. Hank Williams chasing a stage that might have finally outrun him. Patsy Cline choosing to risk one more night flight. Jim Reeves choosing instruments and training and still losing the skies. Keith Whitley choosing to hum over and over, to fight a bottle that sometimes fought back harder. Stringbean choosing walls over banks, and a town choosing to be different, forever, the morning after. Don Rich choosing speed and wind and never getting to choose again. Johnny Cash choosing to write when no one knew those demo reels would matter. These choices, and the gaps around them, that's where the haunting lives. And here's the hidden truth the headlines miss. Every rediscovered tape, every anniversary tribute, every museum exhibit or box set isn't just nostalgia. It's new information. It's evidence you can hear. It changes the case. That's why those Patsy recordings matter so much this year. That's why Cash's new album mattered last year. That's why a single photograph from a Vegas residency can tell us Bobby Gentry was running an empire when people swore she was just a voice. The mystery isn't an unsolved crime. It's a living archive, still being assembled, still reshaping the story we thought we knew. If you made it this far, drop your theory below. What did Bobby and Billy Joe really throw off that bridge? What happened in Jim Sullivan's final 48 hours? And which lost recording would you most want to hear next? Hank's missing last lyrics? An alternate cut from Graham's Desert Nights? Or a studio joke take from Patsy that proves even legends cracked up between takes? Hit subscribe for more Untold chapters every week, and share this with one friend who swears music history has no surprises left. We just found some, and we're not done.